In the heart of a bustling city filled with skyscrapers and endless energy, there was a tech startup named Innovatech Solutions. It wasn't just any company, it had become the talk of the town. With its cutting-edge ideas, young workforce, and recent multi-million-dollar funding round, Innovatech was on everyone's radar. The founder and owner, Clara Bennett, was only in her early 30s but already making waves as one of the most promising entrepreneurs in the industry. Her vision was clear: build a workplace where creativity thrived, employees felt valued, and innovation knew no limits. But Clara wasn't satisfied yet. Despite all the success, she couldn't shake off a nagging feeling that something was missing. She spent so much time strategizing, attending meetings with investors and overseeing operations that she rarely interacted with the people doing the actual work, the employees. Sure, she got reports from managers about how things were going, but those updates always seemed filtered, polished, and distant. Clara wanted to know what really happened on the ground. What did the average employee think? How did they feel about their jobs? Were they happy? Overwhelmed? Underappreciated? One evening, after another long day at the office, Clara sat alone, in her apartment scrolling through social media. She came across an article about undercover bosses, CEOs who disguise themselves as regular workers to experience life at the bottom rung of their companies. At first she chuckled at the idea. Could she pull something like that off? Would anyone believe her if she pretended to be someone else? But the more she thought about it, the more intrigued she became. Why not try it herself? After all, how else could she truly understand what her employees went through every day? The next morning, Clara made up her mind. She decided to apply for a junior position within her own company under a fake name. Using her middle name, Emily, and her mother's maiden name, Carter, she created a new identity: Emily Carter. 2. Make the story believable. She tweaked her resume slightly, downplaying her achievements while still showcasing enough skills to land the job. Then, she submitted her application online like any other candidate. Days turned into weeks, and Clara waited anxiously for a response. Finally, an email arrived inviting Emily for an interview. On the big day, Clara dressed casually, avoiding anything too flashy or professional. She wore glasses she didn't need and styled her hair differently to look less recognizable. When she walked into the office for the interview, her heart raced. What if someone figured out who she really was? But to her relief, no one batted an eye. The interviewer, a mid-level manager, asked standard questions about her qualifications and experience. By the end of the session, Clara felt confident she'd nailed it. A week later, Clara received the offer letter. She had been hired as a junior marketing associate, earning far less than what she paid her executives. Ironically, the salary almost made her laugh. It was barely enough to cover her monthly coffee expenses. Still, she accepted the position without hesitation. For the first time in years, she felt excited about starting a new chapter, even though this one involved pretending to be someone else. On her first day, Clara arrived at the office early, eager to blend in with the crowd. As she stepped inside, she noticed the hum of activity around her. People chatted animatedly by the water cooler, others huddled in meeting rooms brainstorming ideas, and some typed furiously on their laptops. It was chaotic, yet exhilarating. No one gave her a second glance as she settled into her assigned desk. Her colleagues introduced themselves warmly, unaware they were shaking hands with their boss. Clara quickly realized that working as Emily would be both challenging and enlightening. She had to suppress her natural instincts to take charge or correct mistakes when she saw them. Instead, she focused on observing everything: the dynamics between coworkers, the tone set by managers, and the overall atmosphere of the workplace. Some days she found herself frustrated by inefficiencies or miscommunication. Other times she marveled at the creativity and passion displayed by her teammates. Slowly but surely, Clara began piecing together a clearer picture of what life was really like for her employees. Little did she know, however, that her experiment would lead to unexpected consequences. While Clara navigated her double life, tension simmered beneath the surface, waiting to boil over, and at the center of it all stood Greg Thompson, the department manager whose rigid leadership style clashed sharply with Clara's undercover persona. Unbeknownst to either of them, their paths were about to cross in ways neither could have anticipated. From the moment Clara, or rather Emily, joined the team, it didn't take long for her to notice Greg Thompson. He was hard to miss. Tall, broad-shouldered, and perpetually scowling, Greg commanded attention wherever he went. As the head of the marketing department, he ruled his team with an iron fist. Deadlines were non-negotiable, ideas had to align perfectly with his vision, and questioning his authority was strictly forbidden. To say Greg was intimidating would be an understatement. At first, Clara tried to keep her head down and avoid drawing attention to herself. She completed her tasks diligently, participated in meetings when necessary, and followed instructions to the letter. But it wasn't long before her curiosity got the better of her. During one brainstorming session, Greg presented a campaign concept that Clara found uninspired and outdated. Without thinking, she raised her hand and suggested an alternative approach, one that incorporated interactive digital elements designed to engage younger audiences. Her idea sparked murmurs of approval among her colleagues, but Greg's reaction was immediate and icy. "That's not how we do things here," he snapped, glaring at her. "Stick to your role, Emily. You're here to execute, not innovate." Clara swallowed her frustration and nodded politely, but inside she seethed. Who did Greg think he was? Did he honestly believe shutting down ideas would foster creativity? Over the next few days, similar incidents occurred. Whenever Clara offered input during meetings, Greg dismissed her contributions with thinly veiled condescension. Sometimes he wouldn't even acknowledge her suggestions, acting as if she hadn't spoken at all. It was infuriating, especially since several of her colleagues privately praised her ideas afterward. What bothered Clara most, however, wasn't just Greg's attitude toward her, it was how he treated the entire team. He micromanaged relentlessly, hovering over employees' shoulders and nitpicking every detail of their work. If someone missed a deadline, even by a few minutes, he launched into tirades that left them visibly shaken. Mistakes were met with harsh criticism rather than constructive feedback, and heaven forbid anyone challenge his decisions. Such behavior was swiftly shut down. Despite Greg's abrasive demeanor, not everyone disliked him. A small group of employees admired his discipline and drive, believing his tough love approach pushed them to perform better. But the majority of the team resented him. They whispered behind his back, calling him Dictator Greg, and complaining about his inability to listen. Clara soon discovered that morale in the department was alarmingly low. Many employees felt undervalued and disempowered, afraid to speak up lest they incur Greg's wrath. Ironically, Clara found herself becoming a source of hope for her colleagues. Because she wasn't afraid to push back against Greg's edicts, even subtly, people began gravitating toward her. One coworker confided that he loved her fresh perspective and wished Greg would give her ideas a chance. Another thanked her for standing up to him during a heated discussion, saying it took guts to do what she did. These interactions warmed Clara's heart, reminding her why she'd embarked on this experiment in the first place. However, Greg interpreted these developments differently. From his perspective, Emily was a problem. Not only did she constantly question his authority, but she was also gaining popularity among the very people he considered his subordinates. In his mind, her growing influence undermined his control over the department. Every time someone laughed at one of her jokes or complimented her work, Greg's irritation grew. He started keeping a closer eye on her, scrutinizing her performance and looking for reasons to criticize her. Their clashes escalated over time. During one particularly tense meeting, Clara proposed using data analytics to refine a struggling ad campaign. Greg scoffed, insisting that gut instinct was more reliable than numbers. When Clara pressed him for evidence to support his claim, he lost his temper. "You've been here 5 minutes, Emily," he barked. "Don't act like you know better than me." By now, Clara was fed up. She understood the importance of respecting authority, but Greg's refusal to entertain differing opinions bordered on incompetence. Still, she reminded herself of her mission: to observe, learn, and gather insights. not to start a mutiny. So she bit her tongue and continued playing the part of the obedient employee. But deep down, she wondered how much longer she could tolerate Greg's antics. Unbeknownst to Clara, Greg's patience was wearing thin too. Each interaction with Emily fueled his resentment until it reached a boiling point. He began documenting every perceived mistake she made, compiling evidence to justify firing her. To him, getting rid of Emily wasn't just about asserting dominance, it was about sending a message to the rest of the team. Nobody challenged Greg Thompson and got away with it. As tensions mounted, neither Clara nor Greg realized the way. The tension between Greg and Clara, as Emily, had reached a tipping point. Every day felt like walking on eggshells for both of them, though neither was willing to back down. Greg's disdain for Emily grew stronger with each passing week. To him, she wasn't just an irritating employee. She represented everything he despised about the modern workforce: questioning authority, pushing boundaries, and trying to shine too brightly in a room where he believed only one person should stand out: himself. Clara, on the other hand, was torn. She understood that her role as Emily required patience and restraint, but it was becoming increasingly difficult to hold her tongue. Watching Greg dismiss good ideas, not just hers, but those of others, was maddening. The more she saw how his leadership style stifled creativity and crushed morale, the harder it became to stay quiet. Her co-workers often pulled her aside after meetings to express their frustration. "Why does he always shut us down?" they'd ask. "He doesn't even listen." Clara nodded sympathetically, offering words of encouragement, but inside she wanted to scream. One particularly grueling morning, the team gathered in the conference room to discuss an upcoming product launch. The stakes were high. This campaign would determine whether Innovatech could secure a lucrative partnership with a major client. Everyone was pitching ideas, eager to contribute. When it was Clara's turn, she suggested incorporating user-generated content into the campaign, a strategy proven to build trust and engagement among customers. It was a bold move, but Clara knew it could work wonders if executed properly. Greg barely let her finish before cutting her off. "That's not feasible," he said curtly, flipping through his notes without making eye contact. "We don't have time for gimmicks, stick to what we know works." "But," Clara started, her voice firm yet respectful. "No buts," Greg interrupted sharply, slamming his pen on the table. "I'm running this meeting, Emily, not you." The room fell silent. Everyone exchanged uneasy glances, unsure whether to defend Clara or stay out of the line of fire. Feeling the weight of Greg's glare, Clara forced a tight smile and nodded. "Got it," she muttered, sinking back into her chair. But her mind raced. How could someone so resistant to new ideas lead a team tasked with innovation? It didn't make sense. After the meeting, several colleagues approached Clara to apologize for Greg's behavior. "Don't take it personally," one of them whispered. "He's like that with everyone." Another added, "Your idea was great, though. Honestly, I think it could have worked." Their support meant a lot to Clara, but it also fueled her determination to keep challenging Greg. Over the next few days, she continued to push back subtly, presenting data-backed arguments and collaborating closely with her teammates to refine strategies. Each time Greg shot her down, his tone growing colder and more hostile. He began assigning her menial tasks, organizing files, proofreading documents, anything to keep her busy and out of his way. It was clear he viewed her as a nuisance, someone who needed to be controlled, but Greg's tactics only made matters worse. Instead of isolating Clara, they drew attention to his own shortcomings. Employees noticed how he sidelined talented individuals while clinging to outdated methods. They whispered about his inability to adapt and his refusal to acknowledge feedback. Even some of his staunchest supporters started questioning his leadership. Meanwhile, Clara's reputation soared. People admired her resilience and appreciated her willingness to speak up, even when it came at a personal cost. Finally, the breaking point arrived during a heated argument over a project timeline. Greg had set an unrealistic deadline, expecting the team to pull late nights to meet it. When Clara pointed out the impracticality of his plan, citing potential burnout and reduced quality of work. Greg snapped. "You're not here to analyze timelines, Emily," he barked. "You're here to follow orders. If you can't do that, maybe you shouldn't be here at all." The room froze. No one dared breathe as Greg stormed out, leaving behind a stunned audience. For a moment, Clara sat motionless, processing what had just happened. Then, slowly, she packed up her things and left the office early, her mind racing with conflicting emotions. Was this experiment worth continuing? Had she pushed too far? Or was Greg's reaction exactly what she needed to see? The final piece of evidence proving something was fundamentally broken within the company? By the time she returned home that evening, Clara had made up her mind. She couldn't walk away now. This experience was teaching her invaluable lessons about leadership, empathy, and the importance of fostering a supportive environment. But she also knew that Greg's behavior couldn't go unchecked. Something had to change, and soon. 2 days later, Greg called Clara into his office. His expression was unreadable as he gestured for her to sit down. For a brief moment, Clara wondered if he might apologize. Perhaps he'd realized his mistakes and wanted to start fresh. But as he slid a neatly typed document across the desk, her heart sank. It was a termination letter. "Effective immediately," Greg began, his voice devoid of emotion. "You are no longer employed by Innovatech Solutions." Clara stared at the paper, her mind reeling. "What? Why?" she managed to stammer, though deep down she already knew the answer. Greg leaned back in his chair, folding his arms across his chest. "Your performance has been unsatisfactory," he stated flatly. "You've consistently challenged my authority, disrupted team dynamics, and failed to meet expectations. I warned you about this, Emily. You left me no choice." For a split second, Clara considered revealing her true identity right then and there. Surely Greg would regret his decision if he knew who he was firing. But something stopped her. This wasn't just about her. It was about exposing the toxic culture within the company. If she revealed herself now, Greg might try to spin the narrative in his favor, painting her actions as sabotage rather than genuine attempts to improve the workplace. No, she needed to play the long game. Instead, Clara took a deep breath and nodded calmly. "I understand," she said, keeping her tone measured. Standing up, she extended her hand. "Thank you for the opportunity." Greg hesitated before shaking, her hand clearly caught off guard by her composure. As Clara walked out of his office, she felt a mix of anger, disappointment, and resolve. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Word spread quickly throughout the office. By lunchtime, nearly everyone knew that Emily had been fired. Whispers filled the hallways as employees debated what had happened. Some defended her, calling the termination unfair. Others speculated that Greg's ego had finally gotten the better of him. A small group of co-workers approached Clara as she packed her belongings, offering hugs and condolences. "I can't believe he did this," one of them said, shaking her head. "You didn't deserve it." "It's okay," Clara replied softly, forcing a reassuring smile. "Sometimes these things happen for a reason." Later that evening, once she was safely home, Clara opened her laptop and drafted an email. Addressed to the entire company, it began with a simple subject line, "A message from Clara Bennett." In the body of the message, she explained everything: the undercover experiment, her reasons for joining the team as Emily Carter, and her observations about the workplace culture. She praised the dedication and talent of her colleagues while acknowledging the challenges they faced under certain leaders. Finally, she revealed her true identity as the founder and CEO of Innovatech Solutions. The email concluded with a promise. "I started this journey to better understand our team and identify areas for improvement. What I found has deeply troubled me, and I assure you changes will be made. Leadership exists to serve, not to dominate. Together, we will build a workplace where everyone feels valued, heard, and empowered." When the email hit inboxes the following morning, the reaction was immediate and explosive. Employees flooded social media with reactions, sharing stories of Greg's toxic behavior and praising Clara's courage. Within hours, the story went viral, drawing attention from tech blogs and news outlets nationwide. For Greg, the fallout was devastating. Mortified and scrambling to explain himself, he locked himself in his office, avoiding eye contact with anyone who passed by. As for Clara, she watched the events unfold with a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. She hadn't intended for things to escalate this way, but now that they had, she knew she had a responsibility to act. The company she had built deserved better, and so did the people who worked tirelessly to make it successful. With newfound clarity, Clara prepared to tackle the biggest challenge of her career yet, transforming Innovatech into a model of compassionate and effective leadership. The ripple effect of Clara's email was immediate and far-reaching. By mid-morning, the entire office buzzed with disbelief and excitement. Employees huddled in small groups, whispering about what had just happened. Some were shocked to discover that their seemingly ordinary co-worker, Emily, was actually Clara Bennett, the founder and CEO of Innovatech Solutions. Others felt vindicated, finally seeing tangible proof of the toxic environment they'd endured under Greg's leadership. For many, it was a moment of catharsis, a chance to voice frustrations they'd bottled up for months or even years. Greg, on the other hand, was paralyzed by shame and panic. When he read Clara's email, his face turned pale, and his hands trembled as he scrolled through the text again and again. The realization that he'd fired his own boss and publicly humiliated himself in the process was almost too much to bear. He tried to compose a response, but every draft sounded defensive or desperate. Instead, he retreated into his office, drawing the blinds and refusing to answer calls or messages. Meanwhile, Clara wasted no time addressing the fallout. She called an emergency company-wide meeting, standing at the front of the conference room with a calm yet commanding presence. Her eyes scanned the room, taking in the mix of emotions: curiosity, anger, confusion, and hope. She began by apologizing, not just for deceiving them, but also for allowing such dysfunction to fester within the company. "I'm sorry," she said sincerely. "I should have been more present, more aware of what was happening here. But now we have an opportunity to fix things, together." Her words resonated deeply with the team. One by one, employees stood up to share their experiences. A young graphic designer recounted how Greg's constant criticism had left her doubting her abilities. A project manager described being reprimanded for suggesting flexible work hours despite overwhelming evidence that it improved productivity. Even some of Greg's former supporters admitted feeling stifled by his rigid approach. Clara listened intently, nodding occasionally and jotting down notes. When everyone had spoken, she addressed the elephant in the room. Greg. "Greg is not the villain here," she said firmly. "He's a product of systems and habits that prioritize control over collaboration. That ends today. Moving forward, our focus will be on fostering trust, communication, and mutual respect." By the end of the meeting, the atmosphere had shifted dramatically. Employees who had once feared speaking up now felt empowered to contribute openly. There was a renewed sense of purpose and unity, a shared commitment to rebuilding the workplace culture from the ground up. As for Greg, the board of directors intervened swiftly. They placed him on administrative leave pending a thorough investigation into his management practices. While the decision was met with mixed reactions, some believed it was too lenient, while others thought it fair given the circumstances, it marked the beginning of a much-needed reckoning. For Greg, this period of reflection forced him to confront uncomfortable truths about himself. At first, he blamed Clara for orchestrating a personal vendetta against him. But as days turned into weeks, he began to see the bigger picture. His obsession with maintaining authority had blinded him to the needs and potential of his team. Determined to grow, he sought counseling and enrolled in leadership workshops, vowing to become a better version of himself, even if it meant starting over elsewhere. With Greg temporarily sidelined, Clara seized the opportunity to implement sweeping changes across Innovatech. The first step was restructuring the leadership team. She promoted individuals who demonstrated empathy, adaptability, and a genuine passion for supporting their colleagues. Among them was Sarah Liu, a senior, marketing strategist known for her collaborative spirit and innovative thinking. Sarah became the interim head of the marketing department, tasked with restoring morale and streamlining workflows. Under Sarah's guidance, the team flourished. Ideas flowed freely during brainstorming sessions, and employees felt comfortable, sharing feedback without fear of backlash. Projects that had stagnated under Greg's watch came alive with fresh energy and creativity. Clara made it a point to attend these meetings regularly, observing firsthand how positive reinforcement and open dialogue transformed the dynamic. To further solidify these changes, Clara introduced several new initiatives aimed at nurturing employee well-being and professional growth. She launched a mentorship program pairing seasoned staff members with newcomers, ensuring knowledge transfer and camaraderie. Regular town hall meetings provided a platform for employees to voice concerns directly to leadership, fostering transparency and accountability. Additionally, she implemented wellness programs, including mental health resources and flexible work arrangements, recognizing that happy employees are productive employees. These efforts didn't go unnoticed. Productivity soared, turnover rates plummeted, and employee satisfaction surveys reached record highs. Clients noticed the difference too, praising Innovatech's revitalized approach to problem-solving and customer engagement. Within months, the company's reputation as a forward-thinking, people-centric organization attracted top talent from across the industry. For Clara, this transformation reinforced her belief in servant leadership, the idea that leaders exist to serve their teams, not the other way around. She spent less time in boardrooms and more time connecting with employees, learning about their goals and challenges. Whether it was grabbing coffee with interns or hosting informal Q&A sessions, she prioritized building authentic relationships. As for Greg, his journey toward redemption proved challenging yet transformative. After completing his leadership training, he accepted a lower-level managerial position at a smaller tech firm. Though initially hesitant, he embraced the role with humility, applying the lessons he'd learned to create a healthier, more inclusive work environment. Over time, he earned the trust and respect of his new team, proving that change is possible even for those who've made mistakes. Looking back, Clara viewed the entire ordeal as a turning point, not just for Innovatech but for herself as a leader. What started as a simple experiment to understand her employees had evolved into a catalyst for meaningful change. It taught her the value of listening, the importance of leading with compassion, and the power of vulnerability in inspiring others. Innovatech emerged stronger than ever, a shining example of what happens when companies prioritize people over profits. And though the road ahead would undoubtedly bring new challenges, Clara faced them with confidence, knowing she had built a foundation rooted in trust, innovation, and humanity. The aftermath of Clara's bold experiment marked the beginning of a new era for Innovatech Solutions. The company that had once been defined by its rapid growth and cutting-edge technology now became synonymous with something even more valuable: a culture of trust, collaboration, and innovation. Clara's decision to step into the shoes of an ordinary employee had not only exposed flaws in the system, but also paved the way for transformative change. As weeks turned into months, the impact of her actions rippled through every corner of the organization. One of the most significant changes was the shift in leadership philosophy. Clara made it clear that managers were no longer just overseers. They were mentors, advocates, and partners in their team's success. To reinforce this mindset, she introduced quarterly leadership workshops where managers learned how to foster creativity, resolve conflicts constructively, and build strong relationships with their teams. These sessions weren't mandatory. They were celebrated as opportunities for growth. Employees noticed the difference almost immediately. Managers who had previously been distant or authoritarian began showing genuine interest in their team, members' ideas, and well-being. The ripple effects extended beyond the workplace. With initiatives like flexible work hours, mental health days, and wellness programs, employees found themselves achieving a healthier work-life balance. For many, this newfound flexibility rekindled their passion for their jobs. Take Mia Rodriguez, for example, a junior developer who had nearly quit due to burnout under Greg's regime. After the restructuring, Mia thrived in her role, leading a project that earned Innovatech recognition at a major industry conference. Stories like hers became commonplace, inspiring others to believe in their potential and the company's vision. Clara herself underwent a profound transformation during this time. Her undercover stint as Emily had taught her lessons she couldn't have learned any other way. She realized that being a great leader wasn't about having all the answers. It was about asking the right questions. It was about listening, without judgment, empowering others to shine and admitting when you didn't know something. These insights shaped her daily interactions, making her more approachable and relatable than ever before. Employees no longer saw her as an untouchable CEO. They saw her as a partner in their journey. The company's reputation soared as word spread about its progressive practices and inclusive culture. Job applications poured in from top talent eager to join a workplace that valued people over profits. Clients praised Innovatech not only for its innovative solutions, but also for its empathetic approach to problem solving. Competitors took note too, some attempting to replicate Clara's strategies, though few succeeded in capturing the authenticity that defined Innovatech's ethos. Meanwhile, Greg Thompson quietly rebuilt his career at a smaller firm. Though he initially struggled with self-doubt, he eventually embraced the opportunity to lead differently. Drawing on the lessons he'd learned, he created a supportive environment where his team felt valued and heard. When Clara crossed paths with him at a networking event months later, they exchanged polite smiles and brief pleasantries. There was no animosity between them, only mutual respect, born out of shared experiences and personal growth. As Innovatech continued to flourish, Clara reflected on the journey that had brought them here. What started as a quest for understanding had evolved into a movement, one that reminded everyone involved of the power of humility, empathy, and resilience. She often thought about the day she walked into the office as Emily Carter, unsure of what lay ahead. Little did she know then that her experiment would redefine not only her company, but also her own perspective on leadership. In the end, Clara knew that perfection was unattainable. Challenges would always arise, and mistakes would inevitably be made. But what mattered most was how they responded to those challenges, with courage, compassion, and a commitment to continuous improvement. Under her guidance, Innovatech became more than just a successful business. It became a beacon of hope for workplaces everywhere, proving that true success isn't measured by numbers alone, but by the lives touched along the way. Years later, when Clara wrote a book chronicling her experiences, she titled it Leading from Within. In its pages, she shared stories of triumph and failure, vulnerability and strength, reminding readers that leadership is less about titles and more about connection. The book became a bestseller, inspiring countless professionals to rethink their approach to management. And so, Innovatech Solutions entered a new chapter, one defined not by chaos or conflict, but by harmony and purpose. Clara Bennett stood at the helm, guiding her ship with unwavering determination and heart. Through every challenge and triumph, one truth remained constant. The greatest innovations often begin with a single step toward understanding, and sometimes that step requires walking in someone else's shoes.